Hello guys, and welcome back to Star Trek Online. The last set of videos I did, I believe we were talking about creating characters that you use strictly to get the bonus dilithium from reaching Tier 5 in all 13 of the game's reputation systems, and then throwing them away once that was refined so that you could free up those character slots to basically do the whole process all over again. And this time, I decided that what I would talk about today is mastery traits of specific starships that I've been mastering to try and build basically what is the ultimate torpedo boat. And right now I'm going to show you the best one I've managed to build so far. Just as soon as this map loads. So, it's running a little slow tonight, but then again, these games tend to run slow whenever I'm recording. Which I actually narrowed it down to is actually my hard drive being a rotary platter drive and not a solid state, but anyway. So, oh wow, I really need to start opening some of those. Oh, yep, there we go. There's that lagging frame rate, and my hard drive's going like crazy, just like I was saying. Anyway, so the torpedo boat is something that people have tried to build before, and really it hasn't been that effective a vessel until some additions were made to the game over the course of the last couple of years that basically makes it to where the torpedo boat is actually a very viable ship build to use. But not only that, well, let's just say the ship I'm about to show you has actually managed to outperform some of my more combat-oriented vessels, at least according to the combat logs. So, yeah. We're going to go to one of my favorite testing grounds. Hopefully the Enterprise doesn't show up and ruin everything. But the reason why I like to do these test missions in the Romulan sector patrols. Did I not get the... No, I did not. I'm going to have to make that a whole separate thing. Whoop. Oh, wait. What ship did I put that core on? Oh, let me get in the sector space first. The core I'm talking about, long story short, my Jem'Hadar Gamma recruit reached Tier 5 in all of his reputations prior to the Discovery one. So I managed to get this one box that opens up into two other boxes for the account-wide version of the unlock. And, well, let's just say I used the one box that gives you 8 elite marks of your choice to get the Gamma Quadrant elite marks, and then use the one that gives you 350 of your choice. I think it's 350 or is it 500? Oh, it's 500. But anyway, I used them to get... Where is it? Did I not talk to... what's his name? I must not have talked to what's his name. Well, seems I done messed that up. Oh, wait. Now I specifically remember I did not get the warp core I thought I did. In fact, I used it for something completely different. It was on the other characters where I thought, hey, you know, I should get the Gamma Quadrant warp core. Because that thing lets you go, like, warp 30 without even trying. Yeah. You see, there's the carapace fragments. And I used the mark box to get fleet marks because, well, this is happening right here. pretty much it's all been me and one other dude. So that's been building that up. So yeah. Nope. Yeah, I really messed that one up. Of course, given that this is a Federation character that is using Federation and Romulan ships, I'd have to get the core twice. Once as a singularity and one as a regular warp core. But I'm not going to do that right now because that would completely throw off this one project I got going on, which is I'm trying to grind out the dilithium the hard way to get the Zen that I need to be able to buy that new sweet-ass legendary Dreadnought cruiser. Which is that right there. That's what I'm working on. And I'm more than halfway there. I got like $35 worth of dilithium right now, I think. Let's see, it's yeah, roughly right there. This is a total between all my characters. So yeah, I got like $35.82 worth. I would be able to, come on, work with me here. I would be able to buy it for the discounted price, but I'd have like 30, let's see, 24 plus, I have like 31 and a half hours to come up with another $10 worth of Zen. And the thing is even with 12 characters working at maximum speed, I can only refine 96k dilithium a day. So that's like $2.17. So yeah, $2.17 worth of dilithium a day. Though it would be considerably more if the exchange rate were to drop. It actually dropped like 2 points today, so my dilithium pile went from being 33 to 35. Okay, so anyway, as to what I was going to talk about in this particular video, it's traits that allow you to build pretty much a very strong, very potent torpedo boat, and the Intoxicated Leprechaun is the strongest of my collection so far. This one actually uses a grouping of traits from several different starship classes, particularly the Entwined Tactical Matrices of the Garagin and the Target That Explosion and Fire trait from the Earhart class. If you want to know what those look like, there we go. Okay, so there's the Earhart. And is the Discovery variant of it? Oh, no, it's not. So yeah, there's that. And then this one is, of course, the Garagin. Both of them are 25th century refits of Star Trek Discovery ships. But anyway, for those who don't know, most people who have used these ships do know these traits and are intimately familiar with them, but I'll explain them anyway. There's Entwined Tactical Matrices, links energy and torpedo firing modes together. Now basically what that means, you can read it right there, is that when activating torpedo spread, it applies fire at will 1 and scatter volley 1 to yourself, and it doesn't matter which torpedo spread it is. If it's torpedo spread 3, it'll activate fire at will and scatter volley 1. Now when activating fire at will or scatter volley, it applies torpedo spread 1 to yourself. Now, why is this trait important and vital to a torpedo boat? Well, basically, it turns all of the energy weapon buffs into a torpedo spread of their own, in addition to their normal effects. This creates an ability that I like to call spam-a-spread. Because what you're able to do is you're basically, if you have two tactical officers, like you see here, I got a commander tac and a lieutenant commander tactical, and if you have two beam fire at wills, two scatter volleys, and two torpedo spread 3s, you can launch, as I named it, the spam-a-spread. Spam-a-spread is basically, you click with the first officer, you do fire at will 1. This will arm a torpedo spread 1. You fire that off, and as soon as the torpedoes fire, you hit scatter volley. This will arm a second torpedo spread 1, which will fire 1 second later. And then you can click torpedo spread 3. Now, you'll notice the sequence, the firing sequence of these torpedoes. I got the dark matter quantum torpedo first, followed by the phaser torpedo. This one will apply a permanent damage over time directly to the target's hull that has 100% shield penetration. This one, being an energy weapon of sorts, will cause massive damage to shields. And if that doesn't take the shields down, we got the quantum phase torpedo, which it's basically its whole shtick is that in addition to its base damage, it does massive damage to all shield facings. And then follow that up with the Nausicaan energy torpedo. And back here, we have the Crystalline energy torpedo launcher. We have a Withering photon torpedo launcher, mainly for its high DPS and fast firing rate. And in this one, despite the fact that it has a somewhat low DPS, this thing has a 2.5 second recharge, however, with 3 projectile reloading doffs. This thing has the consistent ability to fire almost every second. Now, the reason why, despite its low DPS, it is here is because, for one thing, it has a 180-degree arc, so it can be used as a broadsiding weapon. If you also have the Regent-class ship, you can use its broadsiding quantum torpedo to basically be able to do with torpedoes what tanks do with their phasers and their other beam arrays. So that's basically what this is for. So in that way, if these all go on their, really long reloads, that one's 12 seconds, 10, 10, and 8. If these all go on their reloads, you can just turn your back to your enemy, fire this off a couple of times, and these will all reset, generally speaking. Now, you'll also notice I upgraded this ship to T6X. Apparently, one thing they got wrong when they released the information about the experimental upgrades is that if you upgrade a fleet ship, its store version gets upgraded as well if you have it already. So, like, I upgraded the... Oh, wait, it says Fate Intel Warbird. Did I not upgrade this one to the fleet version? I must not have, which, okay, then I guess the information is correct, because I honestly thought this was the Fleet Fate. Which, yeah, I guess that would explain a lot, because I think the Fleet Fate has 3 engineering consoles. Anyway, oh well, at least, long story short, all my other characters that have the Fate are able to upgrade theirs to T6X as well. I honestly thought this was the Fleet Fate. Anyway, so I don't have any particular item sets on this other than some of the stuff from the Bajor stuff. And I do have an Elite Fleet Singularity. This is just here to increase defense and control resistance and hull capacity. Because this thing is a bit of a flimsy little lightweight. I mean, look at this. In sector space, it says my base hull is just under 40,000. Which... We're going to try to get into the map here. Never trust your sector space stats, by the way. Your true stats will only ever show on combat maps. Now, one reason why I chose the Fate as the test bed for my torpedo boat is it has the ability to fire torpedoes and mines while cloaked. And I also wanted to do this to test another theory. The theory being that because the phaser, disruptor, polaron, and antiproton torpedoes are considered torpedoes, but they do energy weapon damage the way a beam array or a cannon would. Because of the fact that they are in the form of a torpedo, they should be able to fire while cloaked. Turns out I was right. They can be fired under cloak, which makes them the only energy weapon that can be fired under full cloak. Good, the Enterprise is not going to butt in and own the day. So, this is how Spam-a-Spread works. Now you see over here where I have my Jem'Hadar bridge officer, you'll see that he only has maybe 8 seconds before he can do his own Spam-a-Spread technique, though it looks like... Oh, wow. Something actually reloaded those faster. And... Now you're also going to notice that there it goes. See how those photon torpedoes got fired from 3 different starships that are not in and of themselves equipped with photon torpedoes? That is because of the Earhart trait that I mentioned before. Target that explosion and fire. Whenever I activate a torpedo buff, like so, see, there we go. More photon torpedoes fired from those Tavaros. Basically what that trait is whenever you actually activate a torpedo buff, and that has to be a direct torpedo buff, because look, we'll activate this. See how they didn't fire a photon that time? That's because BFAW is still an energy buff, even though it gives you a torpedo spread. Oh yeah. Gotta love spam spread. Wow, we actually tagged all the fighters and 3 of the birds of prey in that attack. All that survived the initial assault was 1 bird of prey, and of course the battlecruiser. Oh yeah. So yeah. $90 worth of starships, and this is what you get. The ability to spam torpedo spreads, make your allies fire torpedoes they are not armed with at your enemies. My game line actually. I did not want that. Okay, so pretty much, and that's what I get for not paying attention. Anyway, so the Garagin trait, which turns any weapon buff into an excuse to launch a torpedo spread, combined with the Earhart trait, which will make anything that is not your direct enemy fire torpedoes at your target when you activate a command skill or a torpedo buff directly. Oh, and this right here is why you don't want to lead with Torpedo Spread 3. When you activate Torpedo Spread 3, you're technically activating Scatter Volley and Beam Fire at will, which will lock out any subsequent activations of those skills. Because you cannot activate Beam Fire at will 2 and 3 at the same time. Well, you can if you click them fast enough, but all you'll do is cause Fire at Will 3 to override Fire at Will 2, and you'll end up putting them both on a full use cooldown. That didn't take long. Anyway, so yeah, there's how that works. So anyway, like I was saying, the way the Earhart trait works is it will apply that torpedo thing to the 6 non-hostiles closest to your target. And the interesting thing is, it does not matter who or what they are. It can be teammates, it can be your hangar pets, it could be your teammates' hangar pets, it could be some piece of asteroidal debris that has a blue targeting bracket instead of a red one. In fact, in the Gamma Quadrant battle zone, where you have to do that one mission where you have to break apart these asteroids and use the pieces to make seeker bombs to destroy a Herc warship. Well, once I broke one of the asteroids apart by hitting it with a torpedo, activating Torpedo Spread 3, and the surrounding asteroids fired a photon torpedo each at that one asteroid I was targeting, and the other asteroids blew up the asteroid for me. So that was actually kind of cool and pretty funny. The other people that were in the battle zone with me thought it was a glitch, which of course it is not. It's just an aspect of that trait. Yeah. See, like right here. While this trait is slotted, when you activate any command or torpedo bridge officer ability, your next torpedo launched will cause nearby allies to additionally fire photon torpedoes at that same target. So Up to 6 nearby allies will launch a torpedo at the target that deals just under 4,000 kinetic damage with each hit. And the interesting thing is that sometimes these torpedoes can come from all from the same side, which will all hit the arc you're firing at, which, if you're lucky, means that when those torpedoes impact, the shield will be down and they will all do their full damage. Or it could be an attack that hits from all angles, which is handy in and of itself if you're fighting, say, a vessel that is equipped with tactical team, because you can hit them from all sides and cause them to not reallocate their shields. Or, better yet, when those torpedoes are fired, you hammer one of their shield facing, which will cause them to reroute all their shields to the shield you're hitting, and then those extra torpedoes will hit from sides that are no longer protected, causing those shields to be reallocated back, weakening the shield that is facing you, and you're able to get some shots directly into their hull. So yeah, there's that one. Now a third trait that is also really good for torpedo boats, though really this one only works on carriers. So if you have, wrong menu, if you have, say, where is it? It's one of the carriers with a really weird name. There it is, the Ronadar, with the whatever the hell. This ship is actually a really good one to use it on. Come to think of it, so is this ship. But anyway, this carrier right here, its mastery trait is that whenever you use a torpedo buff or an intel ability, as opposed to a command ability, your carrier pets will use Transport Warhead 1. Oh wait, it's any intel ability or Tractor Beam 1, 2, or 3 will cause your combat pets, which in this ship's case would be Peregrines or better yet Callistos. It will cause them to use Transport Warhead 1, which in effect is whatever type of torpedo their ship is equipped with, they will beam that torpedo over to, quote, the command levels of your target. So if it were, say, a Galaxy-class ship, it would be Decks 1, 2, or 3 is where the torpedoes would get beamed to. Possibly the battle bridge on Deck 8. Anyway, the idea is that it disables the command systems for a while because basically the floor just blew out from underneath your bridge crew. So, for instance, with these carriers, if you were to master this ship, which I did, but not on this character, if you master this ship, and then you master the Garagin, and then you master the Earhart, and you use a carrier that has Intel Bridge Officer abilities, which the Ronadar unfortunately does not. They sacrifice specialization for having all Lieutenant Commander or higher's bridge seating. But, in any case, you pick an Intel ship that has a hangar. And this is what makes the Jupiter so good, because the Callisto escorts, if you get the fleet versions, they're armed with Torpedo Spread 3 and Cannon Scatter Volley 3. You can set them. You can set the Jupiter up for Spam a Spread, I think. Let me check it again. Tier 6, come on. There you go. Let's see. Lieutenant TAC, Lieutenant Commander Engineering Intel, Lieutenant Science Commander Science, Lieutenant Universal. Okay, so you cannot set up the full Spam a Spread technique with this ship. But there is another thing you can do. This is an upgraded version of the torpedo boat build, which I'm calling the Devastator. Basically, it's a torpedo boat build similar to what I got in the Fate, but here's the difference. In your Torpedo Spread 1 triggering abilities is you have 2 beam fire at wills, and then you have a pair of Torpedo Spread 2s, or a TS2 and TAC team on one bridge on one tactical station, and BFA and CSV on the other. And then from there, when you go to launch your attack, here's what you do. You launch your 2 torpedo spread 1s, followed by torpedo spread 2. Now, the torpedo spread 1s will count as you hitting your enemies with torpedoes. When you do torpedo spread 2, your Callistos will each fire a photon torpedo at your target, while at the same time they are themselves launching their torpedo spread 3s if you have the elite ones that you get from a tier 5 starbase. So, basically, when you launch this attack, you're already opening up with a pair of torpedo spread 1s, a torpedo spread 2, 4 torpedo spread 3s. There she is. Plus 4 extra photon torpedoes, and then if you're doing a TFO, there's going to be at least 2 teammates close enough that they're going to fire off a torpedo as well. Now this ship I haven't set up for the build yet, largely because she needs to get the energy torpedoes. The reason why they're so important is because, being energy weapons, they do massive damage to shields, unlike standard torpedoes. Oh, some of my hourlies are done. Cool. So, basically the way you would set this up, and that's if I even have the... Oh, I seem to. How about that? Ooh. I need to get torpedo spread 2 on this. Or do I have it on another one? I know I have not trained these 2 yet. Okay, anyway. So I can launch back-to-back torpedo spread 1s over and over. But anyway, these Callistos are the dilithium store ones. So these ones are armed with spread 2, scatter volley 3. The fleet ones are spread 3, scatter volley 3. So in the full version of the build, like I said, 2 TS1s, a TS2, 4 TS3s from the Callistos, 4 to 6 random photon torpedoes, and let's see, what else is there? And oh yeah, that's right. If you have an intelligence-trained engineer, you can set up beam over the... You can actually set up the transport warhead ability on this bridge officer themselves. Here's why you would want to do that specifically. It is an intel skill, which means it will then cause the Callistos to beam over a quantum torpedo that they're... because that's what they're armed with, is quantums. The photon is because of the Earhart trait. The Jupiter trait is that they will beam over your Callistos will each beam over a quantum torpedo. You beam over whatever torpedo is next in your firing cycle. So that's 5 torpedoes beamed over to the enemy ship. On the other hand, if you use Peregrine fighters, that's going to be 12 photons or quantums, depending on which version of the Peregrines you're using. But that'll be 12 torpedoes plus your 13th one being beamed over to the enemy ship to blow it up from the inside out. But because it is a torpedo buff, your pets will also fire another photon torpedo at your target. And I'm pretty sure there is not a limit. Yeah, see, I got that trait on this one. Tractor beam or any intel ability. Let me go back to my main, because I know he has that trait. I'm going to check and see if there's a limit to how often the Earhart trait can trigger. Because if there's not, you can fire a salvo of sorts in photon torpedoes that your Callistos don't have. First by hitting torpedo spread 2, and then by using transport warhead. After activating any torpedo or command bridge officer ability, when your next torpedo deals damage, up to 6 random allies will fire a photon. Okay, so there apparently is no repetition limit, like there is no cooldown on the trait itself. At least there's not one written here. Meaning that when you do your opening salvo, your 2 TS1s Those will count as torpedoes hitting the target, thus enabling the Earhart trait but not triggering it. When you activate Torpedo Spread 2, your Callistos will fire a photon torpedo that they are not armed with at your target. Then when you activate Transport Warhead as part of your next attack, your Callistos will not only beam over a quantum torpedo, but they will fire another photon torpedo at the target. So what will happen is your enemies will see you beam a torpedo onto their bridge, then your Callistos beam a torpedo onto their bridge, then fire photon torpedoes from their position. And so what will ultimately end up happening is that if this was a game where this sort of thing actually did cause the type of damage that would matter in this situation, 5 torpedoes blow their bridge open from the inside out, and then 4 random photon torpedoes, well, 4 to 6, depending on if there's other allies around. 4 to 6 more photon torpedoes will then fly in through the hole and do further damage to the inside of their ship. And this is also as your Callistos are firing their Torpedo Spread 3s. So, and then hitting them with scatter volleys. Pretty much, on paper, this sounds like a really devastating destroyer build, which is why I call it the Devastator. But it can really only be applied to a Intel-based carrier. So, because you have to have carrier pets to benefit from the Earhart and Jupiter traits. So really the best one to get would be the Jupiter itself. But if you also want sheer firepower backing it up, even if it means sacrificing the Callistos, you're going to want to get... I forgot I haven't mastered it for account-wide unlock yet. I'm close, though. Not that one. Oh, where did it go? Oh, Jem'Hadar ships. There you are. That one. The reason why is because this ship, the thing that would makes it more effective in various terms is, for one thing, aside from the fact that this thing is a giant mobile fleet, if properly built, this thing has 4 forward weapon slots and 2 aft, which makes it one of the most combat-oriented carriers in the game, if not the most. Now, while the support carrier can use Spam-a-Spread, and basically it's like it's like if the Fate was a 2-hanger carrier. That's what the support carriers are, because they have a Lieutenant Commander Tactical Station, but they also have a Lieutenant Commander Universal that you can set to Tactical and do your 2 BFA, 2 CSV, and 2 TS3 setup. But they're not compatible. Not even the Aatrox is compatible with the Callistos. So you're saying sayonara to having 4 simultaneous Torpedo Spread 3s happen, but in exchange, you're getting this monstrosity, as well as the benefits of its escort vessels. So we're going to go to my Jem'Hadar. He's not flying the support carrier right now, he's flying the main one, but he has both ships. Not the store version of the support carrier, of course, but the fleet version. So, what weapons are on these? Okay, so this one would do photon torpedoes for its beam over, followed by firing one because of both the Earhart and Jupiter traits triggering at the same time. This one would do photon torpedoes on both counts. So, and then what are these armed with? These ones don't have a torpedo to beam over, so the Jupiter trait might not work on these, but they will work on Peregrines, I believe. Yes, quantum torpedoes. So the Jupiter Earhart combination will work in full on Peregrines, which I think these can be equipped on any carrier in the game. No torpedoes. This one would do a combination of chronoton and photons because of the two traits. Transphasic and photon. Polaron dual, polaron beam, polaron beam. This one would also do a quantum photon combination for beaming over a quantum and then shooting a photon through the hole that the quantum creates. So yeah, that's how those traits can be combined into making a devastating and very powerful torpedo build that relies almost entirely on torpedoes. But the Gagarin trait, which is the main focus of this video, is a lot more versatile than that. I mean, while it does lend enough to a torpedo boat to make it a viable build, in fact, the Intoxicated Leprechaun outperforms some of my best DPS builds. And mind you, I've had 8 years or so to build them. So the fact that in a very short amount of time I was able to build the Leprechaun to be able to outperform them, it really speaks volumes about the power of the Gagarin master trait combined with the Earhart. But the Gagarin trait has a lot more versatility to it than that. Particularly when it comes to DPS builds, standard DPS builds, or even tank ships. For instance, this vessel here is set up to be a combination of a beam and torpedo cruiser. Basically your standard run-of-the-mill tank. So basically, as a tank, you're going to want to use fire at will to draw all the fire you can get towards your ship so that you can protect your teammates. So for that, you're going to want to spam fire at will as much as possible. I need to retrain some of my bridge officers. Let's see here. Yep, I am going back to Earth Space Dock. Oh yeah, do I have the core on this ship? Yes, I do. Here's how you haul ass when your transwarp drive is on cooldown. You get the Gamma Quadrant warp core. Look at that. And the funny thing is that that's not even the fastest it could possibly go, largely because when... Yeah, see, I set this one up for transwarp cooldowns and not sector space travel speed. The characters I do have it set for sector space travel speed. This core puts out warp 22 to warp 24, with slipstream going up to warp 56 on some of them. On this one, it's only going to 32. So this character still needs a little bit of revision and retraining. But pretty much, as a tank vessel, you want to be able to draw all the attention you can, like I said. Best way to do that, fire at will, because you're able to hit everything around you at once. And if you're in threatening stance and attract fire, you know, if you're the only one that's doing that, then generally speaking, you will attract all the fire. At which point, your fire at will also trigger torpedo spreads that you can use to gather further attention. And then when your fire at wills are on cooldown, you can arm torpedo spread 3, which will fire a massive spread of torpedoes at the targets whose attention you just got, while at the same time hitting them with fire at will again. So that's another aspect of the Gagarin trait that is very handy to have. In fact, after doing extensive experimentation with this trait, I can honestly say that out of all the vessels that have come out with the advent of Tier 6, the Gagarin is easily a must-have for all players who like filling any kind of a combat role in a team, or even if you're by yourself. because quite frankly, it turns all of your abilities into that are not, you know, single enemy targeting. It will basically turn every shoot 'em all ability into a shoot 'em all with firing everything, and it can easily double your DPS. So we are going to do some bridge officer retraining with this here, and then also retraining the character herself to have faster sector space travel speed to justify that goddamn warp core. Oh, and that ship right there. That thing is really nice to have. Not just because of multi-vector assault mode, but many, many reasons. Okay, so we need to get, and of course this particular type of ship, the Fleet Guardian Cruiser, is not going to be the best for making use of the Gagarin's trait because it doesn't have that much. It doesn't have that many. Excuse me. It does not have that many bridge officer stations for tactical. So, Liso. There we go. Now she's set up. Set up perfectly. Alright. And I said we needed to retrain her too. So, of course you're going to want to take all of the lieutenant skills. Especially if you're flying a tank. You're going to want your shields and your hull to be as durable as possible. You're going to want to maximize accuracy. Let's see, this is bonus damage. So that's critical severity. We'll increase critical chance. Impulse engines. Electroplasma flow. Impulse shunt. Hull plating. Which your hull is passively regenerated over time. We'll want our weapons to not lose power over extreme ranges. Increase power to weapons and engines. Let's see, shield hardness or passive shield regeneration. I realize I'm going to be sacrificing EPS corruption or even any one of these little abilities here, but I honestly don't use them that much unless I'm speccing in tactical. Shield penetration, hull penetration. Spec and increasing bleed through, actually. And that too. Okay. sector space speed. This character does not use carriers at all. So we're going to turn it into a true tank. Character who can tank with anything. Speaking of which, I actually, on my main, I was actually able to build a Kamari in such a way to where when facing a point-blank blast from a planet killer, just looked at it and said, that tickled. Okay. I'm sure some people are going to say that was painful to watch, setting those skills up that way. Okay. Ship should have a need for speed now. Fastest ship I was able to get that uses the Gamma Core was able to do transwarp 56.6 using the Gamma Synergistic Core. Okay. So, like I'm going to show you Beta Thorador again. $47.99. Why does it? One thing I don't understand is why this maximum speed seems to vary from one ship to another. These things are supposed to all, warp cores that dictate speed are supposed to follow a general guideline that a ship would have a certain max speed regardless of whatever else is there, and it would be modified by sector space speed skill. And if sector space speed skill is all the same across all characters and ships, then they should all move at the same speed. Yet this ship is doing warp 22.94 at maximum warp, yet another character with the same sector speed bonuses is able to do warp 24.98 with a slipstream of 48, and another gets warp 30 base speed with a maximum slipstream of 57. So, yeah. And then even when you use the same core on the same character, but you try it on different ships, they all get different max speeds. So, yeah, it's weird. So, set ourselves up for some maximum tankage here. Here's how you get attention. Do I not have the Garagin trait slotted? Oh, I forgot to slot it. No wonder that didn't work. Another thing, guys, I always come here when testing new configurations as opposed to just jumping right into a TFO, because I really don't want to be that guy who comes in with a half-cocked ship and ends up ruining it for the whole team. So, I use this to work out that bug every time I change the configuration. Okay. Wait, what? No, you don't. Okay. And of course that changed back. That's one thing that's always bugged me, is that every time you change stuff, stuff gets deleted. Why would I not take that trait? Okay, here we go. That one's always essential. Here we go. So yeah, we're going to want target that explosion, of course. We're going to want the Garagin trait. That one's always handy to have. And that one. Okay, now let's try this again. Take two. Come on, let's go. Load up a little faster, please. Oh, no. Sean, why are you here?
Nice to see someone else who answers distress calls.
Yeah, we'll go answer somebody else's. I'm testing a ship here. There we go. And for those who don't know how this skill works, anytime you get hit, you get a stack of something that increases your maximum hull health. See, look, you can see my hull health getting stronger. Well, now not anymore because it's at maximum. Yeah, that works pretty well, don't it, for getting attention. In this particular build, the primary focus is that everything is an excuse for fire to use the fire at will. And of course, the beautiful thing is that if, when it comes to the ensign tactical slot, if you're not sure about whether or not you want to use Torpedo Spread 1 or Fire at Will 1, well, the thing is that with the Garagin trait, one will activate the other, so it really doesn't matter which one you actually select. The real question is which one do you want to have go on a shared cooldown with one of the higher ranking abilities, because the trait, or the ability that is activated by the trait will not share a cooldown with the other actual buffs of that type. So if you're going for a focus of being fire at will, you're going to want to have as many fire at will ones as possible, which means you're going to probably want to use torpedo spreads as you're going to want to have your 1 or 2 beam fire at wills and then torpedo spreads everywhere else. Or even just an even number of torpedo spreads and fire at will, because all the torpedo spreads are going to activate fire at will, and torpedo spread is just a side effect of having torpedoes, of having fire at will 1 or fire at will anything. Oh, wait, didn't want to click that, but oh well. is happening with my turn right there? There we go. Now that's another thing I hate that happens is I'll activate an ability, it goes immediately on cooldown, and the ability never activates. But that's been there since I started playing back in 12, so... Or you have to click something several times before it activates. That's another one. Ships like the fine instruments they are. Really, the last ship to survive. The last ship that has to be killed is once again. No kill like overkill. So yeah, that's basically the multiple ways in which you can use the Garagin trait to completely and truly maximize the damage potential of a ship by specializing in firing at as many enemies as possible with every attack, and constantly having those attacks be active, because even though the side triggered versions are always the level 1 variant of any given skill, didn't want the heater coming on and making much racket, because even though the side effects are all level 1 skills, the fact that they do not share cooldowns with each other, and they do not share cooldowns with the actual skills themselves. For instance, for example, Torpedo Spread 1s triggered by Fire at Will and Scatter Volley do not share a cooldown with Torpedo Spread 3. And so on. So yeah. So really, and also, again, with the sequence in which you trigger these, it really depends on which one you're focusing your build on. If you're focusing on Scatter Volley or Fire at Will, then what you'll want to do is trigger the higher ranked ones first with the energy weapon ones. You'll want to trigger the higher ranked ones first. Or no, scratch that. You'll want to trigger the torpedo spreads first, because that'll get the level 1 versions out of the way, and then follow up with your stronger one, because that will allow you to use your stronger ability on targets that have already sustained damage, which will make it more likely that you'll actually be able to cause some severe shield and armor penetration when it comes time to use your higher skills. And it's the same thing when you're using the Garagin trait on a torpedo boat. Use the Torpedo Spread 1 skills first. That way, when it comes time to use Torpedo Spread 3, you've already had a couple of Torpedo Spread 1s inflict some considerable damage to the targets that got hit by it, especially targets that got hit by both of the initial torpedo spreads, and then use Torpedo Spread 3 with your strongest torpedo that you have on your torpedo boat, and you'll probably kill several enemies with that attack. And also, I completed an endeavor. Cool. Yeah. Anyway, like I was saying, if you also use the Garagin trait in conjunction with the Earhart trait, that combination is more in line with torpedo boats. On the other hand, if you're going to focus on DPS, like with cannon scatter volley, then what you'll want to use the Valiant's trait, which increases the duration of scatter volleys from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. That's also another good one to take into consideration. I think there is a ship in the store somewhere that does a similar thing, but it does it to fire at will, in that it extends the duration. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. Or, if someone finds it before I do, please let me know in the comments below, and I will look into getting my hands on that ship at some point. But yeah, I'm pretty sure one of these, the master trait is that it does something to fire at will. Improved weaponized emitters. Maybe it's this ship. When it's slotted, your aceton beam and overwhelm emitter abilities now add radiation damage. Okay, so it's not this ship. It's not that one. Oh well. One of them does, I'm pretty sure one of them does something to fire at will. But yeah, combine that with the Garagin trait and you got yourself a setup for a really powerful tank. Combined with the Valiant trait, you got yourself a good cannon-based DPS trait setup in that you will be able to do spam a volley. And with the Earhart trait, combined with a torpedo boat, you got a good setup for spam a spread, which is a pretty potent ability, like I've demonstrated already. So yeah, please, if you guys do decide to try and test this out for yourselves, please let me know how that goes. And if you have any questions on weapons to use for spam a spreads, spam a volley, or spam at will, go ahead and let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on Discord, and I'll explain it in the STO builds channel on my Discord. And I will see you guys next time. I have been the Sage of Games, and this has been STO. And well, I didn't really have anything planned to close this out, so I guess live long and prosper, since we're in a Star Trek game. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.